Hey guys, and welcome to Functional Friday. Today I'm going to talk about gear and my checklist of when I'm buying something, what I need in order to feel like I have a good purchase. And generally the one thing that I end up doing from time to time that usually turns out to be a bad purchase. And in explaining this, I'm going to use two things that I just purchased as an example. So I'm going to use the collings that I've wanted for a long, long time that I just purchased from Collings, and my new house watch, let's see if it'll focus, the Zenith El Primero Chrono Sport, which is a nice ode to Rolex in a way, and I'll explain that in the video. But before we get to that, let's talk about today's video sponsor, the like button. The like button is left alone and hardly ever pressed. In fact, more than 90% of like buttons on this channel are not pressed. So if you could take a second to press the like button on this video, and then after the video, go to, I don't know, 50 or 60 other videos and press those like buttons. That would do amazing stuff for me and the content that I can bring you guys, because I will reach more followers, therefore making me want to continue to do amazing new content, which I want to do anyway, but still it'll inspire me to inspire you if that's maybe what I do from time to time. Anyway, now onto the video. I'll run through my checklist real quick just to kind of give you guys an idea of what I look at when I'm buying gear. So I start with what it's worth now and in the future. If I can get it for a price that is less than what it's worth for the future, it's a no-brainer, because most of the time, if I decide to move through gear, as long as I can get my money back, I'm happy. I got to play it for years for free, or play with it for years for free. Although I haven't sold any watches yet, so that might be a bad habit that I have to be careful about. But I'll explain that towards the end of the video. Number two is its build quality. How is it made? Is it made really, really well inside and out? If so, that brings its value to me up a bit and kind of matches it with that whole, is it still worth paying top dollar if I maybe lose a couple dollars in the transition between buying and selling, even if I'm not going to sell. There are amps and guitars and that I will never sell. My Larrivee, I will never sell it. My Mesa Boogie, which I haven't done a video on yet, I will never sell it. This Collings, I don't see myself ever selling it. It's so cool. Lastly on the list is its significance to me. Now, I don't actually go down this checklist and go like, check, check, check. But these are things that I kind of ponder over. Is it significant to me? Everything that I buy has a significance to me. This Collings, for example, was a great deal to me. I got a price that I feel like I could get for it if I sold it. The build quality is by far some of the best I've ever seen. The finishing is perfect. There's no blems, there's no scratches that I can tell. It was brand new from Collings, so it is brand new. And it's just, the craftsmanship is amazing, and it's just made so well, and it feels great to play. And I don't know, it sounds incredible. And lastly, its significance to me is this. The first time that I fell in love with the sound of an acoustic guitar was at a concert that the guitar player was playing a Collings, and I just needed that sound live. I needed to have that full body. And I was amazed that in a small guitar, it could achieve that. And so that was its significance to me. And this watch was the same thing. This watch I've wanted forever. It's a Zenith El Primero, the first automatic movement of a chronograph in 1969. And what that means, if you're not a watch fan, is there's a little weight in the back that spins and winds the watch while you wear it. People think that's kinetic, but it's not. Kinetic is a different thing. Kinetic is a weight that winds the battery to a watch, but it's still a quartz movement. Anyway, I love watches. This is an automatic movement, which is just basically being wound, a small spring's being wound when I move around because it's winding that. And El Primero, or the El Primero by Zenith, was the first of its kind. And real watch fans would also say, no, it's not. The Monaco was the first automatic watch. And The Monaco beat them by months on the release, but the Monaco had an automatic movement with a chronograph added to it as a modification. This was designed as an automatic chronograph. So this is the very first automatic chronograph, and 4 months shy of being the very first automatic watch in general. Anyway, I know you're probably like, wait, is this a watch channel now? Hey, learn something. It's cool. Now, the reason this one is, sorry, let's go down my list. What it's worth? Well, let me explain more about the watch, and then I'll go down the list. This watch holds a similar movement and the title as the movement that made Rolex Daytonas famous. So when you see this watch and you go like, wow, that's a Rolex Daytona, those things sell for 50 grand, even though the street price is supposed to be somewhere around 13 or so. They upsell because everybody wants them. There's only a limited number every year and what, blah, 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 blah. When they became famous, the movement that Rolex used was the El Primero movement. They hit up Zenith and said, could you build this for us? And for 20 years, that was the movement in the Rolex Daytona. Only somewhat recently has that changed to being Rolex's in-house movement. So this made that watch famous. And now they've come out with their own that looks kind of like that watch. But you know what? Hey, if anyone has the right to it, it would be them, right? So I think this is way undervalued at its street price. Its street price is expensive. I'll let you guys look it up. But I think it's undervalued. I think the Rolex sells for 5 times its street price or its manufacturer's retail suggested price. This you can get at street price, and it should be at least 5 times. It's a piece of history. It should be 10 times its street price. So someday, hopefully, it will be. That being said, I don't sell watches. I just collect them. So it doesn't really matter how expensive it gets. But going down that list, was it worth it, or cost now versus later? I think it's going to go up in value. The build quality is exceptional. They made these movements for Rolex. Plus, it's a Swiss brand that has in-house movement, which is it's barely a thing for small micro brands. Usually, they get someone else to do all the work. And its significance to me is that I have always wanted an El Primero, and the only Rolex that I've ever really, really wanted, except for a Coke dial, I would totally get a Coke dial, but the only Rolex that I've ever wanted really was the Rolex Daytona. I just knew I could never afford it because I'm not going to drop 50 grand on a $13,000 watch. It's just not going to happen because of my rules. So for me, this was just a dream come true, and it commemorates a lot of special stuff in my life, a lot of cool stuff that's happening right now. And that's why I buy nice watches. And that's partially why I buy nice guitars, although the guitars thing is more of a business thing. This is more of a hobby thing. So now, the turn. The only time I have ever regretted purchases or ended up just flipping gear or things are the times that I get it because it's cool versus my checklist. Using my checklist, I 99% of the time will keep the thing, unless for some reason something beats it out on a checklist and I'm like, you know what, maybe I could justify letting that go to get that because that does hit all those points a little bit better than the other one. But usually I just end up keeping it anyway. Not that I'm a hoarder. I just, I don't buy that much stuff. Anyway, the one time or the few times that I've just bought something and then usually sold it right away would be when I go off of how cool is it? Meaning that is so cool. And I'll give you some examples. This guitar, the Steve Lukather Purple, I bought because I love Steve Lukather and that color is awesome. But I knew that I didn't care for how small the neck was. The build quality was good. And the price I got it for was good. I ended up selling it basically for what I bought it for. And it did have some significance to me. But the reason I bought it was because I was like, that is cool. That was my number one point, was how cool that guitar was. And I sold it shortly after I bought it. Same thing with my exotic Strat. I had a Lake Placid blue relic exotic Strat. And it sounded great and it played great and their build quality is great. They're a great company. But the reason I bought that was because it was so cool. And yeah, probably 6 months later, maybe 9 months later, sold it. James Tyler, that guitar right there. Bought it within 7-8 months, sold it. It just didn't play as good as my Sir. It was just super, super cool in every way. But that was the problem, is that I just went off of, it's so cool. So don't let that one be the trick. Make sure that those 3 bullet points are the reason that you buy gear, and you will be happy. I promise you. And you will keep it for a really long time. And yes, you should spend really, really good money on things because their quality is usually better. You usually end up having more significance with it because you're making yourself have a significance because you're spending a whole lot of money, and that's significant. And usually those really expensive things you can kind of keep their value on, because with some exceptions, there's definitely huge depreciation in expensive things too, but that's how you can sometimes win in the value game. You get it used by someone like me who's like, it's really cool, but it doesn't fit my needs as well as it's really cool. So I end up selling it, but it's already hit all of its depreciation. And so you ended up getting it 6 months old for half the price. So that doesn't mean only buy used gear. There's plenty of times you can get stuff brand new like this and be perfectly happy with it and know that the price is going to go up. And that's your Functional Friday. Make sure to like the video because not enough people do that. And I will see you guys next week. And oh, don't forget, tomorrow, I'll see you tomorrow because tomorrow is Foxcatcher giveaway day. So follow me. I guess I'll go live at 10:30 a.m. or 10 a.m. I'll go live around 10 a.m. Stay open around 10 a.m. East Coast time. That would be 7 a.m. for you Californians, and I have no clue about people on the other side of the planet. I think it's 5 hours ahead, so 6 hours ahead. So roughly 4 p.m. somewhere around there. So check in, and I'll leave it posted for a while. So make sure to watch the whole video, like that one too, that kind of thing. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Take care.